walk us out if you would?
Let go of that.
Just stay at this level, okay, so that they can keep their hands on and walk us out a little bit.
So since it's pretty calm, there probably won't be too much false lift, huh?
No, there'll be zero. Okay, by the way, let's look at his inflation. Okay. In my opinion, he's not cold packed enough. Okay. This one right here? Yeah, the black one. Yeah. His fan is way too close to the burner. So he's not getting a full throat worth of fan. And the balloon's not cold packed. And so that's just going to be a frustrating inflation. Okay, so we already got the turn. Okay. Good thing we walked out instead of going through Dave.
So let me call the tower real quick.
Okay, let's see if that one works, right?
Colorado Springs Towers, hot air balloon, November 74008. So do I just assume they heard me?
I think we do. I mean, obviously we'd like that to be fixed.
Right.
Okay, so tell me a little bit about your flight plan.
Well, I want to be over there and not over here.
Okay.
So, yeah, I mean, I feel like we could ride it this way for a little bit and then climb up and then try to get over Mark Shuffle Woodman area.
Okay.
I mean, you think that's possible with these winds?
I do.
I really don't want to be going that direction.
That direction.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, because, I mean, it's not the end of the world. That's not a horrible direction, but there's a lot of obstacles between us and them, right? And so we think about the airport, and then there's sort of building congestion. And okay, Corey's up.
I mean, should I be jumping up higher to get that more east now, or should I go out that way a little bit so I'm not too far east?
Well, my feeling is I would like to know that east is there. Otherwise, it changes your strategy.
Okay,
right?
so it wouldn't hurt to just climb up and see if it's there.
Yeah, I don't think we have to panic, but yeah, I would go ahead and just climb straight up and just and you know, be watching the altitude to see where we get that turn, because we've got about a 320 now. Right. Let's see, what does it take to get a 0? What does it take to get a 30? That kind of a thing.
Okay.
That also keeps you out of United there.
Yeah.
You know. Because we do think the turn's there, but let's go prove it. And in general, I find that earlier in the flight you make that decision of getting into your good spot, I think the better off you are, because you run the risk of it might be there now, but not a half an hour from now, or something like that, you know. Feeling something.
Tower, November 760 Bravo, balloon.
Or a good chance they heard us.
1.7.
So it was about 6,900 feet
November 7160
on the
Bravo.
ruck.
Land
They're showing that,
here
yeah.
south. I am the blue with yellow lightning.
I would say just keep climbing. Right now you got about 350 feet a minute. I think that's perfect. Let's keep climbing because we expect that we'll just gradually keep turning to the right. And then, like you say, ride that kind of back out towards Mark Sheffel. And we're actually, let me sort of get my bearings here. We're almost right on Mark Sheffel now.
Okay.
Because see the water tanks out there?
Yeah.
That's Mark Sheffel.
Okay.
It's just that it's a little wider out here. So thinking about if we could get a due north, we'd be in great shape.
1058,
Well, I am surprised at how clear it is. That's great. I was worried about fog.
It does got a little bit of a haze in the air.
Yeah, a little bit.
See, we're hearing them. Hearing fine on it.
Yeah.
Some 0 station, uniform is 3003, wind 1005, departing 17 left, 17 right, and 13.
I feel like we're turning.
A little bit.
345? Oh, that's nice, yeah. Yeah, I feel like you're getting it now. And so once we get up to, I think it's Constitution-ish, there is some sort of like a construction gravel pit kind of thing that typically gives off steam, and they've got a flag.
Okay.
So that'll give us an idea what the ground wind is doing and sort of whether we want to keep working right or whether we want to, you know, just go due north. But I feel like you're
On a good track.
I feel like you're on a great track. Feels almost due north, doesn't it?
Almost 357,
Yeah, that's great.
358.
And I just like being out of the traffic pattern. I mean, even though we're close to the airport, I'd be more than comfortable having an airplane come in, you know.
Whiskey,
Look at all of this neighborhood here. I guess that's
That's what that'll be.
I don't know. It just looks like it with the streets. I read on the news, where was it? That I think they're going to start building out heavily between us and the water tank, where Mark Sheffel kind of curves.
I saw that too. Turning in all the residential area. So I got a 0 now. 51.24. 71.24.
Yeah, I like that. Oh, and I'm seeing Dave looks like he's got it. Corey's coming right up behind us. It's pretty late in the year to have that much snow on the mountain, isn't it?
Yeah. Maybe that means we'll be good for being too dry this summer.
Hopefully. Well, look how full the lake is.
Yeah.
They've let that. I mean, it's even covered where the tractors were pulling silt out.
Do they stock it, you think?
I don't know.
I wonder if they will or not.
Okay, so it looks to me like Dave's climbing higher than us, and so let's see whether he gets even more of a right turn, because I think he will. How fast are we moving now?
We are at 9 knots. Okay. 10 knots.
Did you hear Dave has his check ride?
Yeah. Yeah, he's got a little more east.
Yeah.
Right, 240 and on to departure, 79 Whiskey.
still got that sort of 320 look to it. Oh, you see the steam at the construction area now? Right at the right-hand edge of the property. So it's got quite a bit of west. So a couple of things that we can look at as we go here is that this is Mark Scheffel going all the way up.
Okay.
That neighborhood with the steam in it actually has some open spots in it.
Okay.
If you look to the right of it, you see that big open area? Great landing area, but very little access.
Okay.
Whereas if we go straight up to the sort of the end of the neighborhood, then see how it opens up right along Mark Scheffel. Those are accessible.
Okay.
At least they were last time I was there.
So if we were wanting to hit any of those, I would need to be more over this way when I'm coming down.
I think that would make your life a lot easier, yeah. Because then you can drop down and take that west into the landing as opposed to having to, you know, dive bomb him to landing and.
So I could climb to try to find a little bit of east.
You could.
As I'm going, I need to periodically be hitting this burner too. Or does it? How important is that?
I don't think it's critical. If you had dual burners with 2 different coils, then yes, because you want to keep that coil warm. But with a single coil and dual blast valves, there's not much value to it. 5th of April being calving season, so.
There we go.
Interesting that he's taken off to the south.
He'd be taking off into the wind?
He should be taking off into the wind, so that confirms that that drainage is completely gone and that the airport's seeing something like a 100 or better. You see the Air Force Academy there? The white box on the left-hand side feels new to me.
Isn't that the stadium?
I don't remember it being that sort of big and just, you know, boxy looking. You think it is?
I mean, the box thing is definitely new looking, but is that I feel like that's where the stadium's at.
Could be.
I don't recall seeing that box though.
Yeah, I should just drive up there because it looks different.
Ray, Tower, good morning. Wind call, runway 17 left, clear landing.
See?
5018, are you a diver? Roger.
Definitely got more of an east here.
Yeah, this is great, especially because he just called an airplane into 17 left to land, and so that tells me that. I mean, I feel like we ought to see him, but somewhere. Now, given the fact that this whole area out here is sort of no man's land, getting too far to the right, unless we want to go all the way up to Woodman, it would be a caution for me. Okay. Does that make sense? And going all the way up to Woodman is just where the access improves, and that's fine. What I'm doing is I'm watching this steam. It's still got west.
So now I could probably keep going a little bit and then drop down and try to go more north.
Yeah, and take that due north, sort of split that open field.
Roger, good morning.
Because like you say, we're still seeing the west in the steam, But if we ever saw that change, I wouldn't want to be hung out in the middle of that field.
Right.
Corey's dropped down below us. Same strategy.
You think I'm far enough over now to look for the north? Or you think I should be a little further over?
I'd be okay dropping down now, just kind of letting it cool till you sort of due north track. I think that'd be perfect. Because with this upslope wind, I find it very unpredictable in terms of how long it will go towards the west. In theory, we expect it will turn to be like 180, 190 eventually, but I can't seem to predict it very well. It's nice to see Corey and Amanda back there.
It is. We're at 2 right now. Perfect.
Euro November Spring Sky, Roger, try to land and remove one.
Well, I hope Rob launches. I thought he was ready pretty quickly after we were.
Cessna 70 November, wind calm runway 102, clear for takeoff. Sylvia 268, Springs Tower, wind calm runway 1, right, clear for takeoff. Dallas 5018, turn, go 5, ground point 7.
Okay, it feels like we're just starting to get that little bit left to north, right? So what is that, 7285? So that must be our boundary. Yep, that's perfect. And can you see the power lines to the right of the steam?
Yes, I can.
Okay. So those are at least my memory is that's the only hazard out there that if we drop into the open space and go left,
We'll have to watch out for
we would
it.
have to come over the power lines before we land. There are a couple sort of construction roads that go to the east of the power lines as well. If, for example, we're out there and it's heading due north or something, there are options. But my memory is they don't go out very far. You know, they sort of go out and turn around where they're dumping dirt or something.
Yes, you had a ground point 7.
This probably isn't a very valid test of the radio since we're
right
since
here.
we're right next to the tower, but it's working well.
I think something's definitely up with it though.
I do too. It's not quite right. Okay, now he called a Cessna out on 1-3, but I don't see him. So he should be coming out sort of underneath Corey. I'm not sure where that... Oh, there he is. You see him just...
Oh yeah.
He's just staying low. Must not have used up much of the runway. Okay, so we've gotten a little bit of a left turn there.
A little bit. Is it too soon to be going left? Should I
think so.
I should probably hop back up and...
Yeah, I mean, you're climbing now, right? Because even that 10 degrees, you know, it's going to get you into that neighborhood, and then when you drop down, you'll be on the other side of Mark Sheffield. And that's okay. For me personally, I tend to be a lazy lander. I want to work I'll say work hard during the flight to make the landing part easy.
Yeah, that sounds very ideal. That seems like the part you want to be easy.
Yes, because it's also the part that will sort of get the most difficult if you haven't planned ahead, and that's where stress shows up. Is when you think, oh man, oh I missed that landing. Now I'm going west. I'm into town. I'm all the way. Oh, now I'm over Powers. What's going on? And I've had a couple flights like that, and they're stressful. Don't remember exactly where I landed. I'd have to look at a map again. But I had a flight like this in the 225 where we took off from trade zone. We're headed due north, and the ground wind out here was going due north. And so I dropped down about 40 minutes into the flight and then got a hard turn straight west at about 10 knots. And missed 3 landings, just couldn't get quite lined up on a field. And I ended up west of Academy, landing in a little neighborhood, and it was safe enough, but tore the balloon on a tree coming in, and it was a sort of a willing sacrifice to pay at the time.
Right.
But that kind of thing is stressful. Because not only at that point are you worried about finding a good landing site, but I was also starting to get concerned about fuel,
right.
And yeah.
There we go. I got a 4 now. 3.
Okay. Nice.
I'm at 7,400,
Yep.
almost 75. I could probably use a little bit more east, huh? I guess if I stay on this is getting me over enough.
Yeah, I think due north is good. And I think right of north is fine. I think left of north would not be helpful. I'm seeing Dave, he dropped down and then has kind of caught back up, so it's nice that they've tightened up a little bit. Terry's obviously going what I would call the conservative route, going east. So as we're flying along, let's talk a minute about drop lines. Okay. In a global sense, I don't like drop lines. I think they're scary and dangerous. Primarily because of 2 things. One is I think people deploy them in too much wind, and then they expect people to catch them, and they can really create a strong downward force, and I think that's scary. It can be done well. I've seen it done well. I did a seminar on that a while back, and we used an example where an Albuquerque pilot, Bud Heberly, did that with a well-trained crew. He came into the field probably 10-12 knots and deployed his drop line, and they didn't catch it, but they let it hit the ground, and they grabbed the drop line, and of course then he slows way down and starts that arc, and you can see him burn, and I mean the crew did an excellent job because he flares it out, and then he had 3 guys on the drop line, and 3 guys were at the basket, and I mean then he got weight on the basket, and guys let the drop line go. I mean it was awesome. The challenge is rarely do we have enough crew or a well-trained crew that do that. So that's what makes me nervous, but it can be done.
To me, it seems like drop line would be used for like light and variable when you're stuck over somewhere.
That's exactly what it's designed for. I'm on the wrong side of the fence, let me throw a drop line. Or sometimes, like especially back east, where hey, I'm on the tree line, let me throw my drop line horizontally and have you guys kind of rotate me into the field.
Tree line, yeah.
Which works great if it's calm. A couple of rules of thumb is we always want the drop line to hit the ground before anyone touches it.
Okay. So nobody gets hurt that way.
Because you don't want someone catching it with their face.
Right.
And especially out here in the desert, this unwinding of the nylon will create a lot of static.
Oh, okay.
And they'll grab it and they'll kind of get that jolt, which is not the experience you want. So if you let it hit the ground, you get rid of all the static, all that dynamic motion, and then they can pick it up. And then something to be aware of is if the balloon has any movement at all, your experience as a pilot is that the drop line will be pulling you down. So you got to be ready for that and hopefully not over a hazard at the time.
How many times have you had to deploy one?
In the grand scheme of things, not very often. I mean, I've probably used it in real life 10 times. But in fairness, out here, we rarely have sort of that gone dead calm, light and variable experience. It's, you know, we live in a fairly breezy environment. And we live in such open space that oftentimes what I would do is, even if I'm on the wrong side of the fence, I might just land and then wait for the crew to just come to me and walk me out.
Right. So I'm kind of going more left now, going back towards the west.
I feel like,
am I still too soon to be going any west?
well, if you look at that steam,
Oh, it's kind of just going straight up now.
it does feel like it's gone pretty calm. So I think you're great going due north, yeah. And a little left to north is probably okay. So we've got this power line going due north, right?
Yep.
And then you see where it turns and goes up towards the northeast, and that construction neighborhood, for a rule of thumb, is at Dublin.
Okay.
And that's that new Banning Lewis neighborhood, which is also open. So like right now, you're going straight down this corridor, and to some degree, you're going right down this corridor of no man's land, right? If we get all the way to Dublin, you'd want to be a little further right. If we stop around Constitution, you don't want to be more left.
Okay.
So to some extent, we could take the point of view, we're in the worst spot possible.
I need to pick a spot and go with it.
Or I think that steam is still easing to the west.
Okay.
I would probably, if it were me, I would be navigating to follow right along that power line.
Okay.
With the expectation of going left into the landing spot.
Like on the other, to the left of the power lines.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But I certainly wouldn't get left of Mark Scheffel.
Right.
Especially if we go further north, because you can see how tight it gets up on Mark Scheffel. Down here on Mark Scheffel is fine, right?
Right.
See, like now we've got a pretty strong left turn there.
352.
Okay. And we've been hot about 30 minutes now.
I mean, by the time we get over there, it'll be getting closer to an hour.
Exactly.
So I'm good to just kind of stay level and just.
I think so, and I think that, you know, you're doing this weaving thing, which I think is absolutely perfect. You're right on the boundary layer, and so if you were to look at our track in 3D, you're sort of porpoising, right, but intentionally, because you're going right and left,
Right.
and it's what I would call the corkscrew maneuver.
Okay.
And I believe that's a good approach, rather than what I would call the triangle maneuver of go out and expect to come back, because the wind changes here so much. That corkscrew keeps you on a nice tight path, rather than getting you way out and hoping for a recovery. I think you're right, that steam is going darn near straight up.
I don't know if it's like a temperature inversion or my burner flame is getting weaker.
Are you low on fuel?
I am getting low. But would that be what it is it's not heating it up as much?
Mm-hmm.
Just reacting differently. So that's just the end of the tank, and that's what the burner is going to do.
Yeah, it looks like it's down to about 10%, so I'd buy that.
So then if it's going straight up, we're not going to have that left turn to get us over the power lines if we're on this side of it.
Right, so right now you're lined up on the power lines, which I think is perfect. I think the steam is going almost straight up. It is a little left, but not much. One of the things I'd really watch out for is it going to turn right?
Right, and push us back into the power lines.
But it's still going to the left. You know, not a lot, it's pretty calm. But like you're perfectly lined up on the power lines now, so I'd probably climb up, which I think you're doing, to be straight on to that. Because like that big gray box building,
yeah,
you know, that's a pretty attractive spot. It looks like it's wide open, and even if we went north of it, there's the grass field south of it, the grass field north, there's a little neighborhood we can hop over. All of that looks pretty attractive to me. And I think it's fairly accessible. You know, accessibility changes a lot around here.
So I'm getting quite a bit of left. I need to be going the other way, huh?
Because now you watch that steam, and it's got the left now too, right? But again, that's the advantage of the corkscrew, because we're only what, 100 yards off your goal destination at this point, so it's all right. And we got 2 balloons chasing us. Like Rob has lunch, that's good.
Neighbor right behind me.
Yeah. That is something we're going to want to pay attention to as we land.
Okay. See how close they are to it.
Well, because if they're coming in for a landing at the same time we are, we need to be communicative and predictable.
Okay.
Oh yeah, I think we want to be up to get that right turn. Pretty strong left, isn't it? Because let's say we're coming into a field, and let's say these balloons are right behind us and they're coming in. If you land, that's fine. But if you land, or they think you're landing, and then you fly on, they're coming over your top, and it's weird, and or in my opinion, worst case scenario, what I've seen is people come in and the front guy lands, but not well, and bounces. And then in the meantime, he's slowed down just enough that this guy's coming over the top as he's bouncing up. That's a bad deal. So like if someone is right on you, you might say, hey, I'm going to land, but you might go 50 feet into the field or something just to make sure that they can land behind you,
right, and have
rather than feeling like they got to climb up to 80 feet. Oh, yep, that's their turn, isn't it? That's nice.
So should I still keep climbing to try to get on the other side of those lines?
I know, what do you think?
I mean, the smoke's going more that way than that way.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it looks, it's hard to tell because we're not right over it, but it looks to me like it's got kind of a northwest bit to it.
I mean, that big empty field right there in between the houses and then that spot looks very nice.
It does.
Turn there.
The Rob has launched. It doesn't feel, I don't feel like he's moved. You just see him down there in the trade zone area. Maybe it's just so calm he's staying low. I don't know. Hope he's not having a problem.
See, I'm seeing very little west with that smoke.
Yeah, it looks pretty thin, or pretty light, doesn't it?
but a little bit. I mean, that would be enough to push me over. That way if I was down lower.
Yep.
Should I run this one all the way down, or am I good to go ahead and switch it?
You're good to switch it whenever you want. The advantage of running it all the way down is that you've maximized your fuel usage for the day.
Okay.
The other advantage is, for me at least, it is mentally cleaner to know it's empty rather than think, well, I've got a little bit left in that tank.
Try to use it.
Because by the time you want to use that little bit left in the tank, you've got 12 other things going on, and it's mentally cleaner for me to know that it's gone. So in this kind of a 4-tank situation, I will typically run it all the way dry just to make sure that it's done. I can switch over, and then I don't have to mentally keep track of what it was.
I guess that fill does look pretty appealing too. The one in between. But I'm probably too high right here to be hitting that one.
Yeah, you got a long time. It feels like that because that might be a steep glide slope, but we're not moving very fast. You know, right now we're only going 12 knots, and we anticipate as you drop down, you'll actually slow down a fair bit. Which will feel, the experience will feel like wind in your face because you're coming into that calmer area.
This is not very easily accessible.
It's not easily. There is a gate right here. You can see the barrel tracks coming through. That is accessible. Load along the power lines is okay. Okay, so that sounds like your tank is empty. So I don't quite remember who it was. Maybe Patrick? Patrick was flying and Aaron was flying different balloons, and they both landed sort of right in this Arroyo area because the ground wind shifted. They were doing this approach and the ground wind shifted, and so they came over the lines and landed, and that road worked out okay for them. But like this whole area, all those gates are locked. At least last time I was here.
Now, am I good to just kind of gradually start descending? Or would I have to worry about a layer throwing me off course if I do that?
I probably would gradually start descending and getting a feel for what does that line me up for.
Okay.
And of course the power lines under us are our biggest concern. We don't have much hazard on the left side or the right side for that matter. So as we drop down, the steam is pretty calm. So what I would anticipate is we'll feel like we're quickly crossing to the left of the power lines, and we can continue our descent and probably have a pretty calm area. Now, I do see a pole.
Yeah, I see it right in the middle.
The
of that
orange
little...
and yeah, I don't know what that's about, but something to just be aware of. That whole area looks fenced, like it sort of has a military vibe to it. Again, thinking about options, if we're going north now, north of the fence looks great, and even if we get a hard turn and we're in that what I would call clean dirt, that would be okay. Yeah, I'm going to keep an eye on Dave and Corey, they're both trucking up higher still. Yeah, feels okay, so we're crossing the power lines good now. I think the steam is going that way. Okay. I think where those buildings are there, I think there's a road that actually goes to the north there. And I have landed in that little short stretch between the neighborhood and Mark Sheffel several times too, so if that's where we're going, we can do that.
Am I too far to the west? Should I be? I feel like we should be over that way, son.
Well, I'm looking at the steam. I think we're actually going to calm down, and I think we're going to go to the north. And so I think you should plan to land before Mark Sheffel, because you see the power lines on Mark Sheffel. But at this rate, I think we've got a real good chance. If you wanted to be super aggressive, I think we still could land here. We're getting a little bit more left turn right now than we anticipated. Yeah. So we might be better off just letting it gradually go all the way to the deck and then landing
somewhere right over there.
Yeah, on the other side of the cement plant there. But again, in terms of approach, we want to let it. We want to do our descent now. We're well clear of the power lines.
Okay, so I mean, I'm already at 200 feet, but I can go more.
You can if you want, and I think 200 is fine.
Okay.
You know, because the key is what you don't want to do is be this high and then try to land in that little triangle there. You know, we want to sort of ease in right over that embankment and land and see how it goes. And again, visualizing all your options. If you get a left turn, there's some stuff over here that's open. It sort of feels like we're getting a little bit of that left. And if you don't like it, you can always bail out and get that right turn again and corkscrew again. Yeah. You'd have to do that aggressively, but you can. Okay, so talk me through what you're thinking.
All right, well, right now I got that in my way.
Okay.
More left than I was liking, but if I just keep descending like this, once I get kind of past that building or whatever it is, I can like land right past that concrete, huh?
You
or
could.
Is that too close to the road?
It's probably okay. There's 150 feet there.
But right now I'm just trying to get down lower to see what's going on.
I think that makes sense because we know we've got options, right? So we know the propane area is probably not where we want to be.
Right.
And I think we have to get all the way to those new houses under construction before it opens up. But there is an open street there. You know, this is just a big cement mixer. So we could tuck it in here. We could go over the power. But you're right, we're getting more left than the steam told us we would originally. So this is the case where I probably wouldn't worry about the turning radius. Okay. Just because you're going to be walking around the basket. Notice that now we're lower, we're getting a little bit of a right turn, so you're exactly right, you want to get low. I'm seeing street lights, but no power lines. I'm seeing a cement mixer. That's obviously our big hazard at this point. But it feels to me like we're drifting to the north.
I need to keep the balloon warm in case I need to jump up.
big field over there, catty corner with the home loan sign.
I think I should climb up.
Okay.
Are you thinking that too because of that?
I think you've already leveled out, and I think you're going to want to be just slightly higher than you are now, but I wouldn't do it too early. Okay. Because we are getting just enough of a right turn that the field over there is starting to look pretty attractive to me.
The one on the other side of...
Mm-hmm. Because we've got power lines here, right? And so you have just that little puff.
Yeah.
That's okay. It took you higher.
Okay.
We just don't want to get back into that left, because we might have to tuck it in next to that water tank or the storage, which, I mean, presumably there's access into those.
I got a 310 right now.
I just think this stuff south of the intersection isn't very attractive. Power lines, fences, it looks all locked up, so. But I'm liking that water tank tractor storage.
Yeah.
Let's see what the top of the Smith looks like. Okay, Dave and Corey are both well beyond us, so we don't have to worry about them.
Keep this track, I'm gonna go past those signs.
Okay.
And then I'm gonna, well, now this is where I should consider where my vehicle, my chase can get in at, right?
Yes. And we're presuming that with that stuff in the field, they can get into that field.
Okay.
So I think you're right on that you want to stay, you know, I think you're dead on here, because we're level now. We're well above the power lines, and I think we're tracking. Now, would I land immediately in that field? Well, probably not. I'd probably get closer, because I'm guessing that the access to that field is more likely on the west side.
Okay.
Notice the lower you get, the more left you get. So this is the time that you want to tell your passengers out loud.
Get ready for landing.
Well, I'd start with, I see the power lines, we're going to go over them. They're not a hassle, okay, just
So they don't freak out.
because they're oh man, are we dropping? Are we going to hit? No, because right now we're climbing over the power lines, which is exactly what you want to be doing. Partially because you want a little bit of that right turn, and you want to be climbing over power lines. But just acknowledging out loud to the sheepish passenger that, oh, nope, I see him. We're going to go over them, no problem. That builds confidence. And you want a little bit of that right turn. So I'd probably go up another little bit to give you time to get that right turn and tuck into that. So that we're not just tucked right into the corner of that field, you know. How's your stress level?
It's pretty high right now.
Okay. You breathing?
I'm breathing, yes.
That's good. For reference, my stress level is not high.
Okay, that's what I'm hoping on.
Right. And so now notice that you've got that little right turn. Oh, now, and look how, oh wait, the world just opened up for us. Now your stress level's way lower, isn't it?
And so now I can really just like let the balloon
Just
cool
watch your
down.
power lines. Stay warm. That's exactly right, because now you're expecting a little left turn, but that'll take you into the tractor area that looks like there's access, I think. But boy, that feels a whole lot more comfortable, doesn't it? And so don't be afraid of taking that last minute nudge over, because I mean, it was easy. You still have a lot of space to work with. So at this rate, we're going to be landing sideways, but you're in landing position. You got your hand on the red line, you got your arm around the uprights. Everything looks great. So now that we've cleared all the hazards, I would work to get low so that you're low in that field and you can pick your spot. Because you don't want to have to do a last minute descent. If you have to do a last minute maneuver, we want it to be a slight bump up over the trailer. Catch it. Okay, that's an over vent. You're going to have to catch it. Nice. Okay, we're clear of the fence. I'd say land anywhere you want. Let's keep that lit. We may not lay it down. Yeah, that's plenty cool. You can use that out. Nicely done. Yeah, smooth landing. Open field.
All right.
No hazards. How's that feel?
Feels really good.
Yeah.
Love it.
And so look at that difference when we were sort of headed over all of this crap.
Right.
And your stress level's super high, thinking, oh man, this is... And the internal dialogue is sort of, what have I done with my life? You know,
Right.
This is horrible, it's working out, what have I done wrong? This is really bad. And then just that slight bump up, 20 feet, it's like, oh, well, this is easy. And so that's why we're always working to make that easy, because A, we just don't like the stress. And B, what if we got a wind shift?
Right.
Well, we don't care right now. We're in the middle of a 100-acre field. And so who cared if we got a hard left or if the wind went back? Hey, we don't care. And I like to not care what the wind is doing when I come in from it.
Right. It's just one less thing to worry about.
That's right, you know. And there's your crew.